Round 1, Ultimate Kart Wars going down. We've got the Arrow 6.2 versus the KR, the super popular kart versus the up and coming contender. Let's get some. Now today we do have the X30 on one kart, the Rock GP on another. We've got two different drivers, two different sets of tyres. We're going to drive both and switch and then compare the results using the Micron data. So I know you guys are sitting at home going, Des, what the heck, two different drivers? Well, we're going to go onto the scales and measure our weight and then add the equivalent ballast to my kart because Zach is obviously a little bit heavier. So we're going to even up the karts using lead weight and then we're going to go drive out session versus session, drivers versus drivers, and then compare the data. We're going to try to keep it as even as possible so you guys can make the decision for yourself to see which kart is the ultimate. So not only are we going to compare Des versus Des in the two karts, we're also going to compare Zach versus Zach in the two karts, and then we're going to compare each other to see who is the champion of today. And we have a lot riding on this because until the next one goes down, the winning driver is definitely going to be putting some rubbish on the loser. If you beat me by more than 2/10, so I'm going to quit. Dr. Power, same.
Oh no, about
2 kilos lighter. Damn, all right, Zach King, jump on. Yep, 2 kilos lighter. And this has got 6 kilos of lead on too. No, 4 kilos. So you definitely need light fuel and no lead, and I could probably put another 2 on. Zach is 7 kilos heavier than Des with all his race gear on, more or less. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the lead from Zach's kart for him, and we're going to put an extra 2 kilos on mine. So we're going to have 6 kilos of lead when I'm driving either of the two karts, and we're going to have 6 kilos less when Zach's driving. Nice and easy. So we should come in roughly around 173 to 175 kilos, depending on which kart we're driving. Okay, we've put a poll out on Instagram, and here's some of those questions coming at ya. And the first question was, what's more expensive to maintain, the X30 or the Rock GP? Both engines have similar maintenance periods, being about 10 hours for most people. So that's not going to save you any money. They're both cast iron bore engines, so they run a same style piston to bore system. So they're going to run out at about the same time, and all the parts are very similar in price. Maybe $100 here or there, but no real groundbreaking savings in either of these two engines. If you're looking for engine longevity, I think the Rotax is still the longest service intervals, but the parts are a little bit dearer, so it almost equals out anyway. The next question is, how does a power valve work? On this particular engine, it's a pneumatic power valve. There's a spring that resists the power valve from opening, and once the gas pressure builds up inside the bellows, it forces the piston to move up, which pulls the blade out of the exhaust port, giving it more advanced exhaust port timing for top end power and RPMs, or RPMs and power. This particular power valve is unique to the Vortex. The Rotax is particular to it. It's electro-pneumatic, being controlled by a solenoid now, and it's a far superior system in my opinion. The advantage of the power valve on this particular engine is to try to get a little bit more bottom end power, but it doesn't really work because it's a 3-port exhaust engine. It's mostly for, like when it's in its open spec, you get the maximum power out of the wild exhaust port timing when the power valve is fully open. The X30 has 3 exhaust ports, but it doesn't have any power valve. It's kind of like a blend. The port timing is a little lower, so you get a good even spread of power, whereas this is a little bit more peaky. Oh, ultimate car. All right, sweet, yeah, so initial reactions, that's my first drive of the kart. Feels a little sluggish off 12 because the kart sort of over-rotates. Like once the tyres get up to temperature, the front feels really planted, especially say first hairpin, into the back straight turn 12, even at turn 6 a little bit, and I definitely losing time at the bumpy right-hander, which I always do, but when I was behind Goddard, who's a great driver, it was mostly because I think he just holds it flat and I lift, and I started lifting later and the kart got better. I just didn't get the timing right to peg it and lift way later at the apex and ride the bumps. Oh, kilo. I was 174.3.
Oh, good.
Initial reactions?
The track was a bit dusty in the speed bowl.
Speed bowl, you reckon?
On the entry, I binned it once.
Did ya?
I went out, I'll cross the curb.
Yeah, right. Alright, so we'll go back and change the lead. That's almost perfect. I'll put some more fuel in yours and leave mine. And we should come in again, 174, 175. I think I was just feathering the throttle on that one to try to get the lambdas closer to 1.
Yep.
Even in the draft, it only got to 98.
The lambda?
No, the kilometres an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got up to 78, which is okay, but we should run these around 60. I was watching the revs in the live lambda on the screen and just sort of marrying my foot position up just to try to keep that lambda around 1. It could be a touch lean, but the acceleration feels okay. I just think I'm not getting the run out of turn 12 to keep the speed into turn 1. That's where I'm lacking it. Right, so far I've been out in the Power Public kart and Zach's been out in his own car. At the minute, Zach's winning. We're about the same weight. No, I won't say that, will we? It gives a surprise away. Initial reactions, that's my first time driving that engine package and that kart here at Ipswich. I thought the front was probably a little bit too planted for me, and Zach said he found his was a little bit oversteery, especially at the speed bowl. We're going to be able to see that in the GoPro footage. I also raced around with another driver with an X30 and it was pretty even Stevens. I was probably losing a little bit through the bumpy right-hander, which is me lifting off and him pegging it, which will come later in the night maybe, otherwise next week if I practice hard. Blew it on the theory. Through the fast stuff, this kart feels pretty good. 175. So what's that? Yeah, your kart through the fast corners is wicked. The hairpins is still fine, but I just couldn't get it right in 5 laps. So first time driving Zach's kart in probably a year or more. The Jekko seat I was leaning out of heaps, like falling out of it. And that seemed to be when it went the best. If I lean out of the seat, like you watch a lot of the kids do,
Yeah, right.
it really hook up, especially at turn 6. And the flip-flop, if we could time it right, like go left and then right, or right then left, whatever. But the hairpins, well, I was crazy shit. Just sometimes going in just too hot. My theory's like 6/10 quicker, but the theory's an 8.
Time, bro.
Yeah, but I can't get it. It's just, yeah, we were the same in this kart, but you were quicker in your kart.
The thing I struggle with this is everything's way more sensitive, like on your pedals.
Yeah,
Like your brakes are more sensitive.
yeah.
And then, because it's a different carburetor, you can't stamp on it.
Ah, okay.
So I had to mentally tell myself to roll on it. Because I noticed, especially out of Autobahn, it would bog off the corners.
Yeah, it does, doesn't
Because
it?
I'm just getting on it too quick.
Yeah, and I get on these too late. I don't peg it through the corner. I haven't got the timing right and the body positioning, because I know you guys pick up the throttle really early and drive it through the corner of those KRs.
Yeah.
Because my technique is very much Rotax bias, so I'm always way too late, is what I find. We're almost doing identical kart times at the same weight. So in the true spirit of being a flat out racer, I should just sit down, download my data, sit on the nerd box, write out a strategy of how to improve on certain corners. But to hell with that, it's no fun. So I'm just gonna make some changes and go and hit the track and see if I can push a little faster. Moved the fronts in on that by 10, took 6 kilos off, took the radiator tape off to make the engine run on temperature, and that's about it. Now I'm gonna send it. Karts and engine packages. We've just got the one driver, which is Zach, and he's got 3 laps of Rock GP, 3 laps of X30, and we're just comparing the two. So there is some driver inconsistencies. That's always going to be the case, so you're just trying to read through that. But by loading up 3 laps of each, you can start to pick a trend. And the trend we're starting to see is very much so here on the main straight. The X30 is superior, and you can see it here if I zoom in. I think both engines can do equal lap time. However, I just think it's going to be easier to race an X30 against the Rock GP here at Ipswich. With some work though, I think you could get it a little bit closer. This was only a one-night shootout, but same again here. On the 90-meter straight, interestingly, the Rock GP swings in pretty good and is level pegging. If anything, it has out-accelerated the X30 through the mid-range on the 90-meter straights. Now that was one of the questions from Instagram, funnily enough. So the X30 has the advantage at the very top of the straight. It's probably just from its greater RPM range. It's generally 1 to 2 kilometers an hour faster at the end of all the straights. And at this track there's 4 of them, so it's a winner in my opinion. I think you could do the same lap time with the Rock once you get familiar with the package, get the jetting right, get your chassis absolutely dialed. Just be the only place it looks like so far on the data, and I'd have to look a little bit closer, is on the short 90-meter straight out of the speed bolt. It seems to be in the fat of the motor, and it accelerates quite nicely out of there. Into the speed bowl, he's coming in at 61, so that's the lowest of the speeds, which could have been a boo-boo, too much braking, whatever. Didn't lose out down the straight. It's quite linear. So if anything, the pink line was the greatest, where he swung it in through the speed bolt and has the highest terminal speed there, 89 versus high 88s. The next question, is the Rock GP acceleration a myth? Yes, it is. The only advantage, and it's a small one that we've seen on the data, is across the 90-meter straight through the mid-range. There was a tiny advantage, but it did come from the corner before. Overall, neck and neck against the X30, it's the same almost everywhere except the top of the straight in the top speed, where you can gear the X30 a little bit longer for the top end and you still get the good acceleration off the corners. The next question comes from my great friend Jordan, and he asked how long it takes for the karts to accelerate. Well, it's obviously the length of the straight, Jordan, and you can measure that on your micron. data once you download it to the computer and just measure in meters. All right, Sebi has asked if we're testing them in open or restricted, and we tested them in restricted because that's what both classes, me and Zach, run. Des flogging Zach by 8/10. Okay, didn't happen. Sorry about that. Yeah, down. Des did not flog Zach by 8/10. Zach actually got up. Ugh. Okay, so Jack Munro's asked for a lap replay through the speed bowl. We'll play that up for you in the video. Okay, the next question, and this is a great one, is what is better as a restricted engine? I still firmly believe the X30 is the engine to get for this particular track, especially because of its long straights and tight twisty combination. The X30 is superior in the sense that you can gear it right up to run right up to the 16,000 RPM rev limiter, or 15.5 to 16,000. And it feels a little zappier when you drive it, and also to the top end speed when we look on the data is 1 to 2 kilometers an hour faster into the passing zones. I think you could get the Rock GP to work eventually, just with some carburetor and chassis tuning. But for ease of use, I think the X30, it's already winning anyway. Just get one if you haven't got one already. That's probably what I'd recommend to most new guys until we work these out a little bit more. Okay, so the next question is the difference in the lap time. For me, I drove both karts and I did almost identical lap times. Zach, when he drove my kart, almost identical lap time. Zach, when he drove his own kart, and the first time he drove his kart, he was actually 4/10 quicker, closer to 5/10 quicker. And when he drove his kart the second time, he wasn't quite as quick because he just jumped out of something a little bit differently. So very much dependent on the driver is my opinion. All right, so there you have it. We've driven both karts with two drivers at exactly the same weight, 175 kilos. It's a little bit under the class weight, but that's the weight that worked for me and Zach last night. In my opinion, the X30 is still the engine to get just through easy use, gearing, revs, and top speed. It makes it easier for passing at the end of the straights if you can go a little bit quicker than your competitors. This is still a great engine package. If you've got one, play around with the jetting and the gearing. You've got to try to get those revs and that speed up to match these things. The karts were very, very similar. When I got out of one and into the other, just adjusting to the different brake systems was probably the biggest variation. The Kart Republic really feels excellent through the tight twisty stuff, and if you do miss a corner, you just swing on the steering wheel and it magically starts turning. It is very light in the feeling, and that is something that is a huge benefit on these sticky tyres out here at Ipswich on a very grippy track. The Arrow was excellent. When we first drove it, it's still essentially a standard kart with the bar in it as factory. The seat stays are fitted, but it was a little bit too wide in the front, so we brought that in later in the afternoon. It did feel better, it probably understeered a little bit more, but it wasn't any faster in lap time. So you can change all your karts, you can change all your drivers, and change all your engines, but the speed comes from you. All right, so what does that all mean to you guys at home? Basically, it doesn't matter which package you buy, as long as you go to the track and use it the most, you'll become the best. And use new tyres as often as you can and get as many reps in, because it's the mistakes that cost you the speed. It doesn't matter how good you are at one part of the track, you've got to be good at all of the track all the time. And so one of the best ways you can get consistent and practice the right things, because perfect practice makes perfect, is the Ultimate Kart Academy. Inside the Karting Academy, there's a private Facebook group where we all get in there and try to brainstorm out each people's different problems. And in the main course curriculum, the core of the Ultimate Kart Academy, where we're teaching you how to brake like a boss, steer to victory, sit like a pro, rebuild your own race engines, maintain your kart, race winning engines, all that stuff is in there for you guys to learn at your own pace. So if you want to check all that out, the link is in the description as always. Hit it, check it out, see if you like it, buy it if you want it. So what do you guys think? KR, X30, Rock GP? You let us know. Comment below which kart you'd like to see more of, and we'll get it out here.